Hello everybody, Tommyruin here, and today I'm going to be discussing a build of something which I tried to do in beta with limited success. Now back during beta times I was fascinated by the Nemesis random enchant. This enchant allowed me to reduce the cooldown of Metamorphosis so that I could stay in the form all the time. I was enjoying the hell out of the build and then it got nerfed. I made a whole video on that and you can watch that at another time, and yeah, it was made no longer possible. However, since I have got back into Ascension, a legendary random enchant called Demonic Influence was introduced. This random enchant reduces the cooldown of Metamorphosis by 50% and increases the damage of pets by 50%, but it does reduce the damage bonus of Metamorphosis by 15%, so it kind of balances out the damage bonus but also massively increases the damage of your pets whilst also letting you stay in Metamorphosis for full time. So it brings the idea of a Metamorphosis build back into the question, and I have been trying multiple things to see what is and isn't possible. Now in this video I'm going to be going over one of the builds I've been using that utilises this random enchant as well as a Felguard to pump out some heavy AoE damage which will allow you to farm as well as doing good damage in dungeons. Now this build is quite nice as it's not gear reliant, as most of your damage comes from your pet. All that you'll need is two random enchants, one being Nemesis to reduce your Metamorphosis cooldown by 5%, and the second being the legendary random enchant mentioned earlier, that one's Demonic Influence. Other random enchants that you can get that will help increase the damage include Demonic Brutality and Unholy Power. You can get those random enchants in common quality, so you can apply them and you don't need a lot of runes to get them, so those ones are good to look out for if you are looking out for random enchants too. So I use this build when I'm out in the world farming for gold or trash clearing in dungeons. It has very high AoE output and the Felguard is very tanky, allowing for survivability whilst also pumping out huge damage through its attacks and cleaves. The only downside I have right now is health and mana regen. I've tried a few different things, but regenerating health in Metamorphosis form is difficult, as you are limited to Warlock abilities and those that can be used while shapeshifted. So for those watching, if you can find a good way of doing things, let me know. So to go over some of the key abilities, what we're aiming to do is AoE damage. We want to group up lots of mobs and AoE them down. So we're going to pick up abilities like Hellfire, Magma Totem to increase our AoE damage, as both of those can be used in Metamorphosis form. With Metamorphosis we also have Immolation Aura, which is an aura you apply which pulses out fire damage, and it's one of the best AoEs in the game. These three abilities combined deal some very tasty AoE damage, which is added to by the massive amounts of damage that your Felguard is romping around and doing. The majority of the rest of the abilities are buffs and passive damage increases. Things like Thorns and Retribution Aura allow for the mobs to effectively kill themselves as they hit you or your Felguard, and things like Conjure Mana Gem and Healthstone allow you to have some on-demand regen should you be low. Now let's look into the talents. This is where the good stuff is. So most of the focus for this build is in the Demonology Warlock tree. That makes sense, right? You're doing a demon build, you're going to be in the Demonology Warlock tree. This allows us to maximise the Felguard damage as well as maintain the uptime on Metamorphosis. 3 points into Demonic Brutality increases the attack power bonus for our Felguard's Demonic Frenzy by 3%, and then this is further increased by REs if you have them. 5 points into Unholy Power increases the Felguard damage by 20%, which is a massive increase in damage. Master Demonologist increases you and your minions' damage by 5%, as well as reducing your damage taken when you have the Felguard out, and Demonic Tactics increases you and your pet's crit chance. Demonic Empowerment is an active ability that increases your pet's attack speed by 20% and has a really low cooldown due to Nemesis, which you put 3 points into. I also put a point into Fel Synergy to get some extra passive pet healing from my damage. In the Beastmaster Hunter tree, we are putting 5 points into Kindred Spirits for increased pet damage and movement speed. And then 1 point goes into Sanctified Retribution in the Retribution Paladin tree, as it's a nice 3% damage increase for you and your pet, as you're both affected by Retribution Aura. Now, these next few talents are to boost your own damage. So in Destruction Warlock, I put 3 points into Molten Skin and 3 points into Cataclysm to increase the damage of Hellfire, which is going to be your main active ability. Then to benefit from the Hellfire crits, I've put a few points into Ignite in the Fire Mage tree. To boost up spell power and attack power, as that will increase your damage and your pet's damage, we've put 8 points into the Shaman combo, so mental quickness and mental dexterity to increase spell power and attack power. Because our Felguard does melee attacks, the melee attack power is quite beneficial. Now back in the Demonology tree there is Demonic Knowledge, which increases spell damage based on your pet's stats. And then I also put a point into Omen of Clarity, as it's always nice, especially when you don't have many options for mana regen, to have a clear casting ability. Now I have tried many different things to improve this build. I've tried things like Empowered Fire to increase mana regen from crits, and I managed to get a really janky combo using Fell Synergy and Beacon of Light to get some self-healing, but the numbers were just not worth the investment, so the talents listed before were what I settled with, but by no means are they perfect. I definitely want you guys to go out and have a think and see how you can improve this build. So this build does work and it pumps out really nice AoE damage. Like I said before, it lacks in terms of self-sustain as Metamorphosis is quite a limiting form, but other than that, it is very effective. I would love to see what changes you guys would make to the build and if you can optimize and improve it any more than I did. Coming up soon, I'm going to be making a video on my raiding build that I'm currently using and having a lot of fun playing with, and that also utilizes Metamorphosis, so stay tuned for that. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.